All right, everybody. I think we're going to get started.
Excellent.
So I just wanted to, first just thank everybody for joining on. I'm Suzanne Petrie. I'm the manager of the lighting and shade team over here at Strateres. And any of the folks in the greater Boston area probably know me well, because I will be your direct account manager on the Lutron side. We created this series really out of a lot of feedback that we received from all of you. We have been talking to folks about lighting, obviously lighting controls for years, but really starting to talk about light fixtures within the past, I'll say, year and a half, pretty heavily. And many of you have said, you know what, I'm interested in the lighting game. I just need to know how to get into it. What are my first steps? How do I start? So that's where this series came from. We have Bruce Clark with Kaleidolight on with us today. Bruce is our lovingly referred to lighting Sherpa. He is here to really help guide you on your lighting path. He does have the ability to do full designs if needed, but within our Strateres community, he's really here to help us and to guide us down this path. And as he likes to say, to guide you to the summit. But with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over to Bruce to get us going. And as I said, please, if you have questions, put them into the chat. If either I will answer them or Jeff Rogers will be able to answer them kind of as we see things come up. But like I said earlier, if there's something that we need to address as a group, I'll pause Bruce, we'll ask the questions, and I'll try to keep them condensed within one segment. So Bruce, it's all yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Suzanne, Jeff, and the Strateres team for inviting me to be a part of this process, this journey with you all. I'm intensely excited to take the step with you. I'm a little nervous today, but it's nothing that I haven't done before, getting a chance to speak to a group of people. So hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Clark. I am currently broadcasting to you from the wonderful Metroplex of Bloomington Normal, Illinois. And with the beauty of our interconnected lives through the web, I'm able to see you right where you are and provide one-to-one service right where you are. So without further ado, I'm going to try to jump into this presentation today. And but right now I'm seeing that it's about 9:06 Eastern time. And so I'm going to try to go through the material that I have for you today within about 24 minutes. So give us plenty of time to have any Q&A at the end, and also allow you to have a respecting of your time so you can get on with your day and do what you need to do. So pretty excited to jump in with you all, and we'll just get into this. Lighting roadblocks, the great refusal. This is the first of 6. And if you're interested, you want to kind of join the journey. We have 5 more after this. So hopefully there'll be enough meat here for you that you'll want to tune in for the other ones. But we want to condense this down into little snack-sized bits and pieces of information so that you are, just getting a little bit to get you going. Okay, so here we go. What is a roadblock? It's a noun. A roadblock is nothing more than a barrier or barricade on a road, especially one set up by the authorities to stop and examine traffic. Or it's a hindrance, any kind of hindrance. And from what Suzanne and Jeff have told me, and some of the conversations that I've had with other individuals in your group that are trying to take some steps into lighting, there's plenty of jobs that you may be interested in, but the authorities, maybe it's the architect, maybe it's the owner, maybe it's the electrical contractor, maybe it's someone else within that scheme that says, no, that's okay. We're not going to allow you to take the step into lighting for this particular project right now. Maybe you even have your own internal and interior roadblocks where there's a hesitation or a hindrance within you to know how to take that next step. And so we're going to try to address those today. And I've got to tell you, I don't have a lot of good news for you to say, hey, everything's going to be okay. It's just a golden road ahead. But I want to prepare you that the journey ahead is not going to be easy. But before I do, I just want to give you 6 reasons why you should refuse to listen to me. Six good solid reasons. One, I'm not a celebrity. I'm not that celebrity lighting designer that everybody knows. I'm kind of a guy that's an up and comer, a new person on the block. I'm also not an integrator. I'm not one of you. I haven't come from the integration side. And so there's a ton for me to learn from you all when it comes to working the back end of the integration equation. Number three, I'm not a native New Englander. So obviously, if I'm not, from New England, I don't have the street cred that I need to have with you all. Another one, I'm not a lifer. I haven't done lighting design from the day that I got out of my mother's womb until today. I've done a lot of different things. I'm not that guy that's been in the lighthouse this entire time, just manning the light. But I have a lot of wealth of experiences that has added to my perspective that I think is useful. Also, I'm not an engineer. I don't know all the nitty gritty ins and outs of every little piece of technology that's going on. And so to some extent, I'm speaking to you through a lens that lacks maybe some of that additional capacity. And then finally, I'm not a billionaire, because everybody knows that whenever a billionaire talks, you're going to get the front cover of any magazine that you want to be in, and everyone's going to want to listen to you because obviously you've got enough going for you that people want to pay attention. But here's what I do have. I'm a passionate person. I bring a lot of passion to everything that I do. I'm committed to you. I, as a lighting designer, am primarily focusing my practice on the custom integration industry. So I'm committed to seeing this group be successful. And I'll get into a little bit more why later. I'm also a curious guy. I like to ask questions. I like to ask certain questions to really get at the essence of maybe why or what is going on behind the scenes with any kind of conversation that I'm a part of. Another one, I'm an innovative thinker. I'm not just going to give you a straight answer for a straight question. There's usually a lot more things to consider than just what that question is all about. So I try to think innovatively about things, and I bring that to the table. I'm also a flexible partner. I'm the kind of guy that whatever it is that you may need, I can adjust this way or I can adjust that way to accommodate whatever that particular need may be. And I think that, to me, embodies a lot of the essence of what a lighting Sherpa does within this lighting context. And then finally, I've actually done this before. I've been a part of another practice that launched in a similar way. I helped build that from the ground up, and it was very successful. It literally tripled in size after I moved on, and has really been taking this market segment by storm. And so I've gone through a lot of bumps and bruises. I've gone through a lot of the ups and downs with other custom integrators within this space. And so I know what the end-to-end of a project is. And I've learned a ton from both the successes and the failures of some of those projects. So the challenges, what challenges lay ahead? That I think for a lot of us is a primary question. If I choose to take this step into lighting, and I know that this is a channel that Strateres is really trying to push me into, and I know that Lutron is the vehicle through which that's going to be happening. What are the challenges that lay ahead? Well, that kind of depends on, the kind of integrator you are. Are you right now entering into this conversation as a lighting caveman? Like we don't really know anything about lighting at all? Or do you feel like you're more of a lighting Zen master? Like, oh man, I know all the nuances of light and lighting, somewhere in between. And I guarantee that will fluctuate from situation to situation, where sometimes you'll feel more like a lighting caveman. Sometimes you feel more like a lighting Zen master. And then there's other projects where you're just sort of in the middle of the road and you're just going down your path. But the challenges that you face from one project to the next, they will be different challenges, right? For example, each client is going to be different, and therefore there may be a different challenge from one client to the next. What works for client A may not work for client B, and so you'll have to address whatever challenges lay in that conversation. Wherever you enter into a project, I would hope that you could enter into a project at the level of planning before anything is being executed. If you can get to the table with the architect, with the builder, that's going to be a different kind of entry, as opposed to most integrators that I've worked with are brought in when they're like, oh, let's go ahead and throw in a theater, or let's go ahead and buy a bunch of audio video equipment, or hey, let's bring some controls into this equation and let's talk to the custom integrator. Usually a lot of other momentum has been built behind the electrical plan that they use for lighting. And so there's going to be a different approach that needs to be taken depending on that point of entry in the project. And as you grow and as you mature and you take on different kinds of projects, you're going to face different challenges at different stages of your own maturity. Each project is different. You can have the exact same house, the same builder, same electrician, and there may be some different project challenges here that are different than project challenges there, but you will face them. and whatever approach that you take, there's going to be challenges that you have to address. So here's an approach that I know definitely doesn't work. And that is when you seek to just cut out the electrical contractor from any given project, like, we're just going to go ahead and take care of everything, get them out, without actually having a conversation to try to strike a kind of partnership. That's going to definitely present a challenge to you as you try to take a step into this category. As we move forward, there's a wise man that I tune into that talks about the difference between the specific yes and the meandering no. Individuals who identify the specific yes are the people that can very clearly see the path ahead, and they're very much on board with where that is, and they recognize the potential and they're excited about it. The meandering no, those are going to be those long conversations where maybe they'll give you a little bit of a reason why not to do it, and then when you bring about a reason why they should, they'll shift to maybe another reason. Well, maybe what about this? And well, what about this? And then what about this? And I'm not quite so certain. Those are the meandering no's. And sometimes those can be very frustrating, but if you address them in a specific way, they can also be very rewarding. For yourself, as an integrator, you have to be able to answer the question for yourself. And if you don't answer the question, hell yes, I'm going to do this, it's going to be a challenge for you. You might have to work through your own meandering no about whether or not to take the step into this area of lighting. Another thing, you must be clear-eyed about where you're headed, why you're headed there, and what you're willing to invest to make sure you get there. Lighting as a category is a significant investment on the front end that you need to be willing to take that step and know what that step means for you, and build a plan. You don't just happen into lighting. You actually have to really think about it and make a strategic decision to take that step. Otherwise, you're going to be floundering. And if you get yourself into a difficult situation, it's going to be a lot harder to get out of. You also have to expect, as you step into this category, you're going to get meandering no's all over the place, because there is a long-standing tradition of this is the way we do things. This is how lighting has been delivered. This is how lighting has been installed. And we're actually trying to say, well, actually, there's a different way. And so you're always going to be coming against a lot of that entrenched traction. So expect it. And when you get the meandering no's, the best thing that you can do is you have to be willing to listen, embrace, and understand any and all hesitancy, because it's within the space of that hesitancy and those no's that solutions may emerge. That's where your innovative thinking is really going to come into play to help you overcome those roadblocks. As we step into this space, we need to know, man, who are the players that are going to play within this space, and what are the things that they need? Are we doing good, Suzanne?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question.
Sure, go ahead.
So, thinking about what maybe some of the questions are that folks haven't put out there yet, is once they do get to the hell yes, what is the most important thing that they can do to start on that road?
If you say hell yes, I think the first and best thing that you can do is to do a very thorough and deep self-evaluation, right? For me, when I launched this business, I did my own SWOT analysis. So I looked at my strengths that I possess. What are the weaknesses that I have that I need to supplement with others? What are the opportunities out there, and what are the threats that are out there? And really identify that for my specific market and my specific strategic goals. What do I want to accomplish? So once I've done that, then I can start to see what's the next best step that I can take in any one of these areas. I think for any one of you, part of that assessment would be, how ready are we to take the step into lighting? What size projects do we feel comfortable stepping into? Do I need to add additional staff to my team? Do I have a showroom, and is it ready for an upgrade? Do I need to take the jump and really turn it into a very special lighting showroom and get it Lutron certified, Ketra certified, so that I can really showcase product? It could be any one of those things or combination of all of them. So I think that those are some logical and next first steps to take that don't involve you just going to a customer and say, hey, let's buy lighting. You really want to make sure that before you have that conversation, you've done enough research, you've educated yourself, and you've really built a pretty solid plan to move forward that you can then scale up and grow as the opportunities grow.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good. All right. So, man, we got these players. We don't know, what they're up to. Sometimes they're shady. Sometimes they're friendly, but we just need to know who they are. So who are some of the people you're going to encounter? You're going to encounter developers. Developers like scale. There's an integrator that I was working with that wanted to step into a big development, and they just want reproducibility. How can I take what you're doing here as a package and move it on? If we try to provide custom lighting for person A and person B finds out about it, oh man, that just throws the entire calendar in a tizzy, and that upsets the apple cart. So we need to understand the way that we can approach developers with the language of scale and scalability. What about architects? Architects like order. They want to make sure that within the space that they're designing, most often, if they're providing the lighting design, and I put that in air quotes, it's going to follow a very strict geometry of the overall space. And may miss some of the nuance of what that space reveals through light. So you have to understand how to approach them with that order idea in mind. What about interior designers? They like covers, right? They want to be seen on the cover of a magazine. They like pretty pictures. They like pretty fixtures. They like pretty materials. It's all about aesthetics, and it's about beauty, and it's about how the space is perceived and materials, right? If you look in this picture here, we have, I think, 3 light sources. The first light source is this little table lamp. Then we have this nice floor lamp. And then the other light source is the actual, looks like a window. It's coming from outside the space. This floor lamp, I don't see it providing, honestly, much light at all. I think most of the light is coming from outside that space. And you'll find in just about every single interior design magazine, any image that shows lighting, it's about the fixture itself, not how the space is lit. And most of those pictures are taken during the daytime, because the space would frankly probably not look very good with the lights actually turned on at night. They actually have to supplement it with other lights to make that glossy, cover look good. So how do we approach them? We want to approach them through the lens of aesthetics, let them take the aesthetics, and we do all the workhorse work to provide support to that overall vision, right? What about builders? Man, builders, they like budgets. Most new home construction, from what I've seen from the National Association of Home Builders, is there's usually about 3.5% of the entire construction budget is for all lighting and installation, all of it. So if you have $100,000 house, only $3,500 is covering all of that expense. And you can scale it up for some of the larger homes you may deal with, but most of the time the budget is so tiny. And so when you're stepping into that space as a integrator and you're providing fixtures that cost a lot more than a standard contractor grade, commodity grade fixtures, that's a conversation that needs to happen to help open up that budget, because with design and with better quality fixtures within a space, that's going to definitely challenge whatever the budget the builder's trying to maintain control of. And then finally, an individual that could be seen as a nemesis or someone that could be seen really as a partner are the electricians. What do they like? They like efficiency. They want to get into a house, know exactly how many cans they need to throw in, how many different fixtures they need to hang for the decorative side, and then move on. And whenever you get involved, or whenever a lighting designer gets involved, they get a little nervous, because they don't want to necessarily have to deal with all the additional complexity or the additional time involved in how to navigate this new player into this space. Suzanne.
Yes, I'm back. So if you were to pick one, who do you think would be the most important person for any of the folks on the call to start to become a partner with first?
For me personally, I would say definitely the electrician. The reason why I say that is because at the end of the day, when it comes to control systems, when it comes to the lighting fixtures that you're going to be putting into a home, all of the line voltage that is required is going to be coming from the electrician. And you're basically going to be taking a big bite out of their piece of the pie, if you will, by saying, you know what, all of the fixtures that you had been planning to bring to the project, we're now bringing to the project. And so when he hears that, he's thinking, uh-oh, scarcity, loss, something's being taken away from me automatically, and he's going to automatically resist whatever efforts you have. So you have to really think about it holistically. Like, okay, maybe your margin on a cheap downlight is just a little bit more than that. So it's a $50 downlight. Maybe your margin for the cost of that is maybe an additional $25 or $15 or $10 for 100 of those downlights. So like you get a little bit from that, but then you have to say, okay, well, with design, we're going to have more cans. They're going to take a little bit more time to put in. There's a little bit more complexity. And so what you may be losing on the side of fixture sales, you're absolutely going to make up for with your labor cost, which per hour is going to be far greater than your markup on any given fixture. And so you can kind of help to them to sweeten the deal. You can even say, you know what, I like you so much, I'm going to cut you in on a portion of my markup on the product to help, really whet your appetite. It's whatever the integrator wants to do to navigate that relationship. But I think if that's a failed point in the middle, you're going to have a lot of challenges, because they're just going to go ahead and take whatever specifications that you put out there, and they're going to try to swap it out with the cheap stuff from their own electrical distributor, and kind of push you out to the side. And it's going to compromise the overall integrity of the design and the lighting that can be provided for the project. So electricians, I think, are the big one that you have to really work with to get that through.
Yeah, and it almost sounds as if doing proactive conversations with
Absolutely.
the electricians you have worked with previously. And I always think of little visuals of, this is how much money you made before, and this is how much we could do together now.
Yeah, and I've created presentations where you just show them, this is what your paradigm is, and this is what my paradigm is, and this is how this new paradigm can really help benefit you. I've also known integrators that actually have created their own electrician department that works alongside of them to handle that, so that way you can come as like a unified team providing all those services at once. So that's been done too.
Yeah, and we do have a question that popped in.
Sure.
What percentage of the 3.5% you referenced for lighting is the fixtures versus the labor?
What I've seen, and this is more like national, it's like half and half, is usually kind of how that's broken down. So that's just what I've seen typically.
All right, thank you.
Good question. All right, moving on. And then, of course, we have the owners, right? What is it that the owners want? Well, the owners like to feel special, right? Oh, they want to have an experience. Oh, they want to be important. Oh, they want to receive good value. They want to feel confident, or they want to change their mind. So the owners could be that person that, they could go anyway. There was one, I think, for an integrator within your group, Suzanne and Jeff, that the owner's wife thought that the $6 million beautiful clifftop timber frame home with all kinds of interesting geometries could be designed by her on the back of a napkin, right? That's a hard sale to make for lighting when the owner is convinced that they can do it better than anybody else, right? But those are going to be kinds of people that you may encounter from time to time, and so you just need to understand what their buy-in is, what their interest is, and those kind of things as it relates to all the players that would be involved in a given project that you might come across. Okay. So we're going to move on to a fun part. With any building project, you're going to have it built with dimensional lumber, right? So 2x10s. Well, we're going to do TOO by 10s today and talk about 10 specific statements that people might make why they would refuse to take on lighting. They're going to say, oh, it's too expensive. Why do I want to spend all that money when we've only budgeted this much for lighting? Well, this is what the builder says it's supposed to cost, and so that's what my expectations are, and you're asking me to spend way more than that. That's way too much. I can't do that. You may even have someone that says, it's just too complicated. I just want one switch, But what's funny is when you get good design, you have so many different zones of light that really help create a space. If they want just a switch, they're going to have like 8 different switches maybe on the wall, as opposed to, using a very seamless program. Like I know that Lutron with their controls, they just have, 4 beautiful touch buttons on the wall that create the scenes for the space and all of that stuff. It really kind of limits the level of complexity, even though all the complexity is taking place behind the scenes, right? But some people may rebut your offer for lighting services by saying it's too complicated. Another thing, they might say, you know what, it's too unnecessary. We just need light. We don't need design. We don't need anything special. Just give me light. You want light, you get light. Yeah, there you go. And they devalue what light can actually bring to a space. It's too uncharted. Like, oh, we've always just done it this way. Let's just go on this path. That way that you're asking me to go, like, that's too uncharted for me. It's unfamiliar to me. It's kind of a little scary too. So I'm not sure if I wanted to take that risk right now. And there may be some language along those lines. Or you may have individuals say, you know what, you're just too inexperienced. Let's just leave it to the experts. Let them handle that side of things. You just handle the things that you have an expertise in. And so then that's going to be a hindrance that you're going to have to work to overcome. One of the beautiful things of what I can bring to the table, if you were ever to part with me, is that I've told many integrators in the past that if you just simply partner with a lighting designer like myself, you have instantaneous capacity, instantaneous expertise that you can bring to the table that you may not otherwise have. And I think that's a real strong sell for a lot of individuals that are willing to kind of strike that partnership, say, hey, you know what, I need this support. You have that immediate capacity to bring to bear. Man, now I have this boldness to step in and handle all the other aspects of a project. And that's been really successful. Well, let's just say, you know, sometimes this goes to that project point of entry. You know, it's too disruptive. We've already got a set of electrical plans. We've already, you know, bid it out. We've already got the labor figured out. So, you know, why do we want to start over, start from scratch? Why do you want to ask us all these questions again when we've already, you know, committed to this path? Even if when you look at that path, you're like, oh, that path leads to destruction. Are you sure you want to go that way? And like, you know, let's just leave it. That's too much trouble. It's too disruptive. Or maybe they say they're too old fashioned. They just want something they can screw into a socket. There's a lot of people that you'll encounter, even in the high end industry of home building and you know, people that can afford those kind of luxury homes. They still speak about light and lighting as if it's a light bulb that you can screw into a socket. And the direction that lighting has gone is that it is now moved beyond the old fashioned screwing something into a socket. It is an actual piece of the infrastructure of the home. And so, you know, if they're old fashioned, they're going to expect to see a light bulb. And if you're not bringing a light bulb, then, you know, they're like, I don't know about that. Or here's one that's too similar. You know, why do I spend so much on option A when I can get option B for this little? And they don't see the value. That's where you really have to enter in the conversation with a more holistic perspective on what are the materials, what's the functionality, how long will this last? What about air infiltration, where you have all these holes? Is it just a sieve of air out into the outer space, or you know, does the light dim well? You know, how does it actually function? So when you want to get into the weeds of how this product functions compared to this product, then you'll start to see the stark differences. But if it's just a hole in the ceiling and just light coming out, oh, it just seems so similar. Well, I get light out of that hole. I get light out of that hole. This hole cost me a fraction of that. So why do I want to go with that one? You know, and you have to really kind of work to overcome this too similar kind of mindset that people have. Sometimes people are just too busy to get into the process of really working with design and understanding that light needs to be put into a space in an artful and sympathetic way. It's got too much going on. And then, you know, if I make this significant investment now, how do I know that I'm not going to be one of those crazy home buyers like 20 years down the road when like, oh yeah, remember back in the 2020s when everyone was buying all these crazy LEDs? It's obsolete now. We've moved way beyond that. And you're kind of locked in on something that you can't change as the technology advances. So that is definitely going to be a hindrance that you're going to have to work to overcome. Suzanne, welcome back.
I just wanted to chime in a little bit. So I think of the 10, the one that I hear most often is certainly the too expensive. And I just wanted to round the point, if you will, that I know all of the folks on this call do have the ability to sell incredibly expensive items and be able to share the benefits of why, you know, this widget is better than this widget. And I know a lot of it does come from everyone's confidence in being able to talk about things like that. But I just wanted to talk about how controlling bad light, you know, i.e. if you're putting in a control system versus controlling a good light, and how much easier can it make your life as well as your homeowner's life as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think given the fact that Lutron is really trying to advance a total solution, when you put everything in one package, the actual knowing that the connections and the addressability and the flexibility of the one system allows for a very comprehensive kind of install. That when you look at the end-to-end cost of fixtures and controls, the Lutron system is very comparable to if I just spend it all on these bad fixtures, and then have this control system separate from that they're trying to work that compatibility out. That could sometimes be more expensive in the long run, even in terms of additional service calls or something goes wrong. It's also sort of like if you have a really solid engine that you're going to put in a clunky car, and that car is going to break down on you, but you have really good solid chassis or really good infrastructure. So there's some dissonance there. I don't know if I'm addressing your question well with some of that, but I think the broader perspective that you can bring to bear, where you understand more of how the whole piece fits together, I think that that can be a good selling point for individuals to understand that. And then also we're going to talk more later about the overall health and well-being aspect of light and lighting that we're now learning with a lot of scientific inquiry, that really shows that really good lighting truly does help enhance your overall quality of well-being and psychological well-being as well, having a space that really feels good to be in, as opposed to just kind of taking it for granted. So
thank you. And we had a couple questions come in.
Yeah.
So can you talk about lamps versus fixtures thought process when they're continually improving a lamp, especially when everything is not new construction? So retrofit market, screw in whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, there is a lot of attention being paid to the retrofit market with some of the more specification grade lighting fixture manufacturers, right? They understand some of those complexities. And actually, I'm working on a project right now where I've had to do a lot of research into the retrofit side of things, knowing that you've already got holes in the ceiling and you have limitations on where you can place the light. So there's a lot of attention paid there. And really, yes, bulbs are improving, so to speak. But when you start to really peel back, what are the materials that they're actually using? What's the actual, how well does this fixture actually perform in the long term? The quality of light, the adjustability of the light. There's a lot of factors that work into there that you have to really kind of look at apples to apples to really start to see the differences appear before you. There's sometimes you're not going to be able to convince people that a light bulb is really subpar compared to an actual fixture that's more specification grade. But I think when you can show them side by side, either from an experience perspective on how this actually functions, or by showing them the technical details, and so they can see there's limitations with the one compared to the other, that can be a good way to kind of parse out the differences and really kind of unpack the light bulb mentality.
And the other question that came in, so someone was concerned about being a downstream service.
Yeah.
The builder goes through the process, overruns occur. How do you protect your project? Wanting to be considered, a necessity and not a nice to have.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's part of the conversation where you kind of have to grease the skids. I think before you step into a project, if you have a good relationship with a builder, let's say you want to present them upstream as far as possible before you actually step into a project, what the new capabilities, capacities that you bring to bear, so that way you can start that process with that understanding in mind. If you step in after the fact, I think that's really where you're going to have the leverage of the owner being willing to extend the budget for this need, where they recognize that this isn't just a commodity in my home, but this is truly an investment. What you find if you look at spec building construction projects and high-end custom building projects, the way that lighting is typically addressed is exactly the same. The quality of the fixtures is exactly the same. The way that the layout is put into the home is exactly the same. And with all the additional investments that people make on the high end, I think an argument can be made that this isn't really a nice to have. This is truly a necessity. And you have to really let them know that if you're making this investment on, your appliances, on your countertops, your finishes, your audio, your video, lighting is the most significant way that you're going to experience that space. So that you need to expand that portion of the budget to accommodate this. And then you need to have the confidence to step in that space and actually deliver what you have. And I think that's where having a lighting design professional working with you can really help you conceive of that space in ways that none of the other parties can. It's a difficult place to be sometimes, and there is a bit of a squeeze, but I think that's where you really have to be convinced that what you're doing is truly in the best interest for the long term of that client.
Awesome.
Hopefully
Thank
that
you.
answers some of your questions.
Yes.
All right. And I know we're running over a little bit here, but we're really at the end here. And this is where kind of going back to what I was saying to the question about, the downstream service. You have to have in your own mind, be resolved, like, this is a status quo that I'm going to be cutting against, whether in my own status quo of how I run my own business, but also the larger building market as well. The status quo is resilient for a reason. It is an embracing of the current to just keep things going the way that they are. There's actually, I did a little reading about this. There's a status quo bias that people have that automatically puts them at a temperament to reject things that are new, that might cause them to see, I'll lose something if I take this new direction, as opposed to I might gain something by going in that new direction. They're automatically wired to think that they're going to lose something. But there's two ways that you can address the status quo and really try to work against it. One is the process of erosion. Erosion requires patience. Erosion is persistent and patient approach to this. You have to find a small viable audience, just a little nucleus. I just need one person to say yes, to give me an opportunity to take this step. And then I actually start to have a body of work that I can reflect on so that people can see, like, hey, look, it worked for Joe and Nancy down the street. Man, maybe it can work for me and my family as well. So you have to start with that viable audience, make them incredibly happy and have them really be your champion. It's really about toe holds and finger grips, just getting that place that you can take that next step. So once I've gotten to this point, then I can take that next step, and then that next step, and then the next step. Before I know it, that status quo has shifted. The other one is larger. It's kind of more revolutionary challenges to the status quo, where it's more aggressive. It's a paradigm shift. And I'll say this: what is happening in the lighting industry currently with LED technology, with digital addressability, with full spectrum tunability of the light fixtures, with being able to reconfigure the lighting within a space by just simply adjusting some dials on your pad. That's a major paradigm shift. That is as significant to lighting as the light bulb itself was when we moved out of the oil lamp and gas lamp era into the age of electric lighting. I think that we are on the cusp of some significant advances, and we're going to talk about the revolution of LED in our next snack in our series. And so I think paradigm shifts are one of those things where you have to basically say, this is the moment. If you want to step into the new paradigm, this is the moment to do that. Because most people, when they make this investment, I don't know anybody that just says, you know what, just like an old rug on the floor. Oh, that rug, let's just go ahead and just buy a new rug. No one's going to say, you know what, the lighting that we bought 10 years ago, let's just go ahead and upgrade all the lighting just because we feel like it. No, they get stuck with it. So you have to say, this is the moment you're going to make that investment. Is that a worthwhile investment? Thank you, Jared. That was funny. It's kind of a now or never conversation as well. With the revolution, you have to present to them that this is the direction that lighting is going. This is the direction that the industry is going. There's a lot of investment that people are making in this. And so you have to invest in your future in that way. And I think that those things can help them recognize, hey, this train is moving. It's left the station. You can get on board now or miss it. So for me, I just want to encourage you, you have to say, Viva la revolution. In this space, it's kind of a capacity within yourself where you really are saying, oh, yes, I really want to step into this. I see the potential of it. This is the direction that things are going. The direction of lighting favors me and my industry. Electricians are not at the capacity to understand the changes that have happened and are happening in lighting. And so I am perfectly poised as a custom integration technical professional to take this step. And know that you're not taking that step alone, right? I am making myself available to anyone that is a part of the Strateres family, where I have a Calendly link that you can follow up with me, and we can set up a 30-minute meeting where we can just kind of have just a one-to-one conversation about some of your hesitations, some of your questions, some of your things that you're contending with right now. What are the hindrances that you're having to deal with? So we can talk through some of those things as well. Obviously, you can reach out to Suzanne too and just kind of work through some of those bits and pieces. I've got my contact information here as well. I know that Suzanne and Jeff and the Strateres team can easily pass some of that on to you all, so that if you want to get in contact with me, we can keep that dialogue going. But do tune in next week where we'll jump more into the revolutionary aspects of where lighting has been and is going right now. Thank you for your time, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. This has been awesome. We do have another question coming in, but I know we're at 9:45, so I'll ask that question in a sec. So anyone who needs to jump off, feel free to do so. But if you have questions, please stay on, and we'll get into those. But if anyone has any questions on working with Bruce, if you weren't able to catch his contact info, please reach out to me, reach out to your Strateres account manager, and we can all put you together with Bruce so we can kind of continue your lighting conversation.
Very good.
One of the questions that just came in was for someone saying we're early in selling fixtures. They have a relatively small demo room. How necessary is it to have a large showroom with sample fixtures, or what would you recommend? Are portable setups a way to go?
Yes. I think, yeah, people are naturally physical people in a physical space, and they need to experience things in a physical way. So whatever you have limitations in the size of your showroom, I don't think that the magic recipe is, I just need to have a big showroom then. You can show a comparison between different kinds of lighting fixtures in a very narrow closet type configuration where you can just mount on the wall, where you can have your horizontal ceiling plenum, where people can actually see the fixture side by side up above. And then you have these cavities on the sides and then a floor below that just allows you to do the dimming of all three. You can turn them on, turn them off, see how the light actually fills that space. And so people can see in a very, probably, I'd say maybe 6 feet wide by maybe, 6 feet tall, mounted on the wall, put it in a small space, maybe just have a little ceiling area where you have an A to B comparison, where look at this art with this light, look at the art with this light, whatever you have. We can always talk and kind of get into the weeds of that. I've already done some redesign for a few other Strateres partners, where I've been able to actually look at photographs of the space and kind of sketch in some ideas of how that could be reconceived within the limitations of that space. One's a brand new one that's being designed right now, and another one's an existing one that's currently being used as just like a storage room for boxes, but we're able to reconceive that as something that could be divided just simply by how the light is treated in that space as 2 separate rooms to kind of help people to see a fuller scope of lighting services. So a lot of options on the table. I don't think you have to just follow, I got to do the large showroom path. There's other solutions that we can find.
And if you need any specifics, please reach out to your account manager and we can review them.
Right on. All right, guys.
All right. Well, I don't have any other questions that come in. Last call for questions. Anybody before we jump off?
Tune in next week. Tell your friends. We'd love to have more people be involved in the conversation.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, Bruce. We really, really appreciate it. This has been awesome. Getting a lot of really good feedback.
Very good. Thanks, guys. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.